Sold! My sister's voice cracked through the phone speaker, shrill and dripping with champagne-soaked victory. I just got $2.9 million for that rotting old lodge, Emily. 2.9. I could hear the pop of a cork in the background. Tyler was laughing, that high, arrogant laugh that always set my teeth on edge. Don't worry, she continued, breathless. I'm going to use your share to buy us a yacht. And finally, fund Tyler's app. We're going to be rich, Em, like actually rich. Not dusty history book rich. Ashley, you can't. Already done. Papers are signed next week. Bye. The line went dead. She thought she had won. She thought the Whispering Pines Lodge was just wood and land. But she forgot one thing. Grandma Martha left me a secret. Before I tell you what Grandma Martha actually left me, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I'd love to know who's part of our community. My phone sat on the counter, vibrating with the aftershocks of her laughter. Most people would have screamed. They would have thrown something against the wall. But in my line of work, you don't destroy evidence, you catalog it. The silence in my apartment settled around me like falling snow, heavy, suffocating, and absolutely cold. My sister thought power was noise. She thought it was shouting over people, popping champagne, and bragging on Instagram. She never understood that real power is silent. It waits in the archives. It watches from the margins, and when it moves, it doesn't leave a bruise. It leaves a crater. I looked at the phone again. $2.9 million. She had sold our history for a boat and a tech startup that didn't exist yet. She had sold the place where our grandfather taught us to walk, where Grandma Martha taught us to read, just to impress strangers on the internet. Emotion is just bad data in an audit. I deleted it. I walked over to the closet. Inside, hidden behind a stack of restoration supplies and winter coats, was a fireproof safe. I spun the dial, left to 10, right to 24, left to 80. The tumblers clicked into place with a satisfying metallic thud. Inside sat a single object, not a stack of cash, not jewelry. It was a book, the Founder's Journal. Grandma Martha had given it to me 3 days before she passed. She told me that Ashley would only see the cover cracked leather, smelling of pine and smoke, but I was the archivist. I was the one who knew how to look deeper. I opened the book to the preface. My fingers traced the handwritten ink, faded but still legible. The Stewardship Covenant. It was a legal mechanism so old, so specific, that modern lawyers rarely checked for it. It was designed for a different time, a time when honor meant something. In the event of a sale, I whispered the words aloud, testing their weight. My sister thought she was the executor. She thought she held all the cards because she was the loud one, the pretty one, the one who could charm a room. But Grandma knew better. Grandma knew that Ashley was a weather vane, turning whichever way the wind of popularity blew. And she knew I was the anchor. My hands weren't shaking as I reached for the phone. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 2 years. It rang once, twice. Emily, a deep, gravelly voice answered. Mr. Robert, the family attorney who terrified everyone except Grandma. I assumed I'd be hearing from you soon. She did it, I said. My voice sounded flat, clinical. She agreed to the sale. Commercial buyer, $2.9 million. I heard the rustle of paper on the other end. And you want to stop it? No, I said, and the word felt like a judge's gavel hitting the bench. If I stop her now, she'll just try again in 6 months. She needs to learn, Robert. She needs to understand that some things cannot be bought. Understood, he said. The tone was professional, lethal. We let them sign, we let the money transfer, and then we trigger the covenant. Exactly, I said. It will destroy her financial standing. Emily, you know that. I looked at the family photo on my desk, Ashley smiling, holding a designer bag, while I stood in the background holding the map. She didn't ask for my permission to sell my home, I said softly. She doesn't get my permission to be rescued. I'll prepare the papers, he said. I hung up. Outside my window, the sun was shining, but inside, I was already preparing for a blizzard. Ashley wanted a yacht? Fine. I was about to give her an ocean, but she was going to have to swim. The gravel of the Whispering Pines driveway crunched under my tires for what was supposed to be the last time. Technically, the sale hadn't closed yet. The keys were still mine, but the driveway felt different, like the stones knew they were about to be paved over for a generic hotel parking lot. I killed the engine and sat in the silence. The air here was thin, sharp, and smelled of pine needles and snow. It was the smell of safety. Or at least, it used to be. The great hall greeted me with emptiness. It had been stripped of the warmth Grandma Martha had spent 40 years building, but the bones of the house were still there. The massive stone fireplace, the vaulted ceiling, the history. I ran my hand along the rough-hewn timber beam near the entryway. My sister saw this beam and saw a rustic, chic backdrop for her Instagram feed. She saw content. I saw the summer I turned 16. I remembered standing on a ladder for 3 weeks straight, sanding this exact beam until my fingerprints were practically gone, just because Grandma said the wood needed to breathe. I remembered the ache in my shoulders, the sawdust in my hair, and the quiet pride in my chest when she finally nodded at my work. "You have good hands, Emily," she had told me, handing me a glass of lemonade. They know the difference between price and value. Ashley had spent that summer by the pool, complaining that the mountain air made her hair frizzy. I walked deeper into the house. I remembered the winter the roof leaked. Grandma didn't have the liquidity to fix it. Her assets were tied up in trusts. I was 22, working my first archiving job. I emptied my savings account to pay the contractor. I paid in cash so Ashley wouldn't see the withdrawal and ask why I wasn't buying designer shoes like her. I had literally kept a roof over our heads, and they never even knew. Standing by the window where Grandma used to watch the birds, I let myself really analyze my sister, not as a victim of her greed, but as a study in psychology. Why was she doing this? Why destroy the one place that had always been safe for us? It wasn't just the money. Ashley had always had access to money. I thought about Tyler, his loud suits, his desperate need to be the smartest person in the room, his constant grinding hunger for validation. And then I looked at my reflection in the dark window, and I understood. Ashley wasn't evil. She was hollow. She was a vessel that filled herself with whatever personality was strongest around her. When she was with Grandma, she tried to be sweet, but Grandma was gone. Now she was with Tyler, and Tyler was a vacuum of insecurity and arrogance. Ashley didn't have her own confidence. She had to borrow his. She had to adopt his sneer, his values, his cruelty, just to feel like she existed. She was selling this house because Tyler told her it was worthless, and she didn't have a single bone in her body strong enough to disagree. She was a mirror reflecting a dumpster fire. My anger shifted then. It stopped being hot and reactive. It cooled into something hard and heavy, like a stone in my gut. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved, but you can stop them from burning down the village just to keep themselves warm. I checked the thermostat. I checked the locks. I treated the house with the respect you give a dying relative. "I'm sorry," I whispered to the empty room, "but this has to happen." I walked out and locked the door. I didn't look back. The next time I walked through these doors, I wouldn't be the granddaughter. I would be the landlord. 2 days before the closing, I sent the warning. It was a text message, simple, direct, a final chance for Ashley to wake up before the trap snapped shut. I wanted it on the record that I had tried to save her. "Don't sign the papers, Ashley. You don't understand the legal history of the lodge. If you sell to a corporation, you will lose everything. This is your only warning." I waited. The phone sat on my desk, a black mirror reflecting the ceiling fan. I watched the minutes tick by. 11, 12, then it buzzed. Not a text, a video file. I tapped play. The camera shook, disoriented, before focusing on Tyler's face. He was filming selfie style, his face distorted by a wide-angle lens and a smug, caffeine-fueled grin. He was wearing a ski jacket that probably cost more than my entire car. "Hey, Emily!" he shouted, his voice echoing off the timber walls. He spun the camera around. They were at the lodge. "We got your cute little text. Legal history, right? You're hilarious." The camera panned to Ashley. She was lounging on the leather sofa, grandma's favorite reading spot, scrolling on her phone. She didn't even look up at the lens. "Tell her, babe," Tyler prodded. Ashley sighed, looking bored. "Emily, stop being dramatic. The lawyers already looked at everything. You're just jealous because you're stuck in the past and we're like actual visionaries." Tyler laughed, a sharp barking sound. "Visionaries! I love that. We're disruptors, Em. You archive history. We make it." He walked over to the massive stone fireplace. A fire was roaring, orange light dancing across the floor. My stomach dropped. "Check it out, Em," Tyler said, pointing the camera at the flames. "We didn't want to pay movers for all this old junk, so we're saving on heating bills. Efficient, right? Lean startup methodology." I squinted at the screen. In the fire, burning bright orange, was the hand-carved rocking chair from the nursery, the one our grandfather made with his own hands 60 years ago. I watched the varnish bubble and blacken. I watched the spindles snap in the heat. "Rotting firewood," Tyler sneered, "just like this whole place. Out with the old, in with the rich." He flipped the camera back to himself, winking. "We're signing on Friday, 2.9 million. Maybe I'll buy you a history book with the change. Or a cat. You seem like a cat person." The video ended. I stared at the black screen. I replayed the part where the rocking chair caught fire. I watched the wood blister and crack. I listened to my sister call me dramatic, while she let her husband burn our childhood to ash just to save $50 on a moving truck. I didn't feel sad. I didn't feel the urge to call them and scream. That video wasn't an insult. It was evidence. It was the final confirmation that my conscience needed. I wasn't taking their inheritance. I was repossessing it. They were arsonists, and I was simply taking away the matches. I saved the video to the cloud. Then I forwarded it to Mr. Robert with a 2-word caption. "Proceed immediately." They wanted to be visionaries? Fine. I was about to show them a future they never saw coming. If someone burned a family heirloom just to mock you, would you be able to stay calm? Tell me in the comments. I need to know I'm not the only one with ice in my veins. The air in Mr. Roberts' office smelled of mahogany, old paper, and billable hours. It was the exact opposite of the chaos my sister created. Here, there was no shouting. There were only facts. I sat across the heavy oak desk, my hands folded in my lap. "We have the final deed prepared," Robert said, sliding a document toward me. "But before we discuss the closing, Sarah found something you need to see." Sarah, his paralegal, a woman who looked like she hadn't blinked in 3 years, placed a thick file on top of the deed. "We ran a standard due diligence check on Apex Visionary Tech," Robert said, "your brother-in-law's company." I looked at the file. "And? It doesn't exist, Emily." I frowned. "He has an app." He showed me the beta testing numbers. 10,000 active users. "Bots," Robert corrected. He purchased a ClickFarm package from a server in Eastern Europe. The 10,000 users are scripts. The revolutionary AI is a basic chat interface wrapped in a stolen code library. The company isn't a startup. It's a ghost town. I felt a cold laugh bubbling in my chest. Tyler wasn't a genius. He was just a con artist with a good tailor. "That explains why they need the money," I said. "He needs to pay back investors before they realize they bought vaporware." "It gets worse," Robert said. His voice dropped an octave. Turn the page. I flipped the folder open. It was a bank statement for the estate's liquid cash trust, the account meant for maintenance and taxes, frozen until probate closed. Or it was supposed to be frozen. There was a withdrawal, dated 3 weeks ago. $960,000. He forged your digital signature, Robert said quietly. We traced the IP address to the lodge's Wi-Fi. He drained the maintenance fund to pay off his initial seed investors. He's running a Ponzi scheme, Emily. And he used your grandmother's legacy to plug the hole. The room went silent. I stared at the number. $960,000. They weren't selling the lodge to buy a yacht. They were frantically selling the lodge to cover up a felony before the SEC or I audited the accounts. The sale price of $2.9 million wasn't profit. It was a getaway car. This changes the strategy, Robert said, leaning forward. This is embezzlement, fraud, identity theft. We can call the police right now. We can have them arrested before they even get to the closing table. He reached for his phone. No, I said. Robert froze. Emily, this is nearly $1 million. If we arrest them now, I said, my voice steady. Tyler spins a story. He claims it was a misunderstanding. He blames Ashley. He drags this out in court for 5 years while he burns through the rest of the money on defense lawyers. I stood up and walked to the window. I looked out at the city below, a grid of steel and glass. They think they are getting away with it, I said. They think the sale on Friday is their finish line. If we stop them now, they'll never learn. They'll just find another victim. I turned back to Robert. We let them sign. Robert's eyes narrowed, assessing me. You want them to commit to the sale? I want them to sign the deed, I said. I want Tyler to think he's safe. I want Ashley to think she's won. I want them to stand there, arrogant and untouchable, believing the money is theirs. I tapped the founder's journal that sat on the corner of the desk. And then I said, I want to trigger the covenant. I want to take the house, the sale proceeds, and the evidence of this fraud all at once. I don't want a legal battle, Robert. I want an execution. Robert stared at me for a long moment. Then a small, terrifying smile touched his lips. Very well, he said. Friday at noon. Let's go close a deal. Friday arrived with a blinding glare off the snow. The closing took place in the great hall of the lodge. The developers had set up a folding table right in front of the empty fireplace where Tyler had burned a rocking chair. The air was tense, but for different reasons. The developers were checking their watches, eager to get back to the city. Ashley and Tyler were vibrating with a manic energy, like two people trying to outrun a cliff. Let's get this over with, Tyler said, clicking a gold pen. We have a flight to catch. He signed his name with a flourish, Tyler Vance. Then he slid the deed to Ashley. She didn't even read it. She just signed, her eyes darting to her phone as if expecting the bank notification to pop up instantly. Done, she exhaled, a sound of pure relief. It's done. The lead developer, a man in a gray suit, looked at me. And the final signature from the co-owner? Tyler smirked at me. Go ahead, Em. Sign away the past. Join the 21st century. I picked up the pen. I felt the weight of the wood floor beneath my feet, the floor I had refinished 3 times. I felt the gaze of the portraits on the wall. I signed. Excellent, the developer said. He nodded to his assistant. Initiate the wire transfer. $2.9 million. Tyler grabbed Ashley's hand. We did it, babe. We actually did it. One moment, Mr. Roberts said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cut through the room like a razor blade. He didn't look up from his briefcase. The wire transfer cannot be routed to Mr. and Mrs. Vance, Roberts said calmly. Tyler stopped celebrating. Excuse me? The account number is on the form. That is correct, Roberts said. However, per the execution of the deed, a pre-existing lien has been triggered. What lien? Tyler snapped. We had the title search done. The property is clear. It is clear of debts, Robert said. It is not clear of conditions. He adjusted his glasses and began to read. In the event that the Whispering Pines Lodge is sold to a commercial entity for the purpose of demolition or redevelopment, the entirety of the sale proceeds shall bypass the heirs and be immediately transferred to the Martha Heritage Charity for the preservation of historical sites. The room went dead silent. The developer looked at his assistant. Is that legal? Robert smiled, a cold, sharp expression. It is ironclad. I drafted it myself 20 years ago. Tyler's face went pale, then red. You're stealing our money! That's $2.9 million. It's not your money, I said. I spoke for the first time. My voice was steady. You sold the house, Tyler. The deal is done. The developers own the land. But the money belongs to the values you mocked. Ashley looked at me, her eyes wide and wet. Emily, please, we need that money. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, Robert interrupted. He pulled a folded letter from the back of the covenant. Your grandmother anticipated this moment, Ashley. She left this for the closing table. He opened the letter. To Emily, he read, who polished the wood while others posed for photos, who fixed the roof while others complained about the draft. Ownership does not belong to the name on the deed. Ownership belongs to the hands that know the weight of the hammer. Ashley flinched as if she'd been slapped. That's sentimental garbage, Tyler screamed, slamming his hand on the table. I'm suing you. I'm suing this whole estate. I wouldn't recommend that, I said. I reached into my bag and pulled out the file Sarah had given me. The Phantom Beta report, the bank records, the forged signature. I slid it across the table. It hit Tyler's hand with a heavy thud. Because if you sue, I said, this goes into the public record. Tyler looked down. I saw the exact moment the fight left his body. He saw the withdrawal dates. He saw the IP address logs. You didn't just lose the house, Tyler, I said softly. You committed wire fraud, embezzlement, forgery. I looked at the developer, who was watching this drama with a mix of horror and fascination. The sale stands, I told him. Wire the money to the charity. Mr. Robert has the routing number. No! Ashley wailed. She grabbed my arm. Emily, stop! If we don't pay the investors back by Monday, Tyler goes to jail. They'll ruin us. I looked at her hand on my arm. Her manicure was perfect. Her grip was desperate. Tyler is going to jail regardless, Ashley, I said. The only question is whether you go with him. I pulled my arm away. The avalanche has already started, I said. You're just now hearing the noise. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but I think it's best served with legal documentation. Hit like if you agree that reading the fine print is a superpower. Tyler didn't stay to fight. He didn't try to explain. When the reality of the wire fraud charge hit him, he did exactly what a coward does when the walls close in. He ran. He left my sister standing alone in the middle of the great hall, surrounded by strangers and legal documents, while he sprinted for his rented Audi. It didn't matter. The police picked him up 3 days later at the airport, trying to board a flight to Tulum with a maxed-out credit card. But I wasn't watching the news. I was watching my sister. An hour after the developers left angry, but refunded, Ashley was still sitting on the front steps of the lodge. The sun was setting, turning the snow a bruised purple. She was shivering. Her coat was thin, designed for walking from a valet stand to a restaurant, not for sitting in the reality of winter. I walked out and stood beside her. I didn't offer her a coat. I needed her to feel the cold. I have nowhere to go, she whispered. Her voice was cracked. The arrogance was gone, scraped away by the terror of what she had done. Tyler emptied our joint accounts before he ran, and once the forgery charges hit, I'm going to prison, aren't I? She looked up at me. Her mascara was running, dark streaks down her face. I forged a signature, Emily. I stole from Grandma. Yes, I said. You did. I looked out at the pine trees. I could have ended it there. I could have handed the file to the district attorney and watched her vanish into the system. It would have been justice. Pure mathematical justice. But Grandma Martha hadn't just left me a house. She had left me a lesson about value. And throwing my sister away, even now, felt like a waste of potential. I won't press charges for the forgery, I said. Ashley froze. She stopped breathing. What? I won't give the police the file on the $960,000, I continued, my voice flat. But that money is still a debt to the estate, and debts must be paid. I don't have money, Emily. I have nothing. I know, I said. So you're going to pay with the only asset you have left, time. I turned to face her. The Martha Heritage Charity now owns the lodge. I am the director, and we have a vacancy for a live-in caretaker. Ashley blinked, confused. A caretaker? You will move into the guest cabin. I laid out the terms. It has heat, running water, and 0 Wi-Fi. You will work 40 hours a week. You will split firewood. You will repair the roof tiles. You will clear the snow. You will scrub the floors until they look the way they did when Grandma was alive. For how long? She asked, her voice trembling. Until the value of your labor equals the value of what you stole, I said. At minimum wage, that should take about 40 years. Or less if you learn to work hard. She looked at her manicured hands. She looked at the dark, imposing forest. Then she looked at me. Okay, she whispered. The transition wasn't fast. Winter dragged on for another month. I watched from the main house window as my sister struggled. I saw her slip on the ice. I saw her drop logs and cry in frustration. I saw her trying to chop wood with hands that had never held anything heavier than a champagne flute. I didn't go out to help her. I let her struggle, because the struggle was the point. But then the snow began to melt. Green shoots pushed up through the frost. The air turned softer, and my sister changed too. The designer clothes disappeared, replaced by flannel and denim. The makeup vanished. Her muscles, once purely aesthetic, grew dense and capable. One afternoon in late April, I found her on the south porch. She was sanding the railing, the same tedious, back-breaking work I had done at 16. She was covered in sawdust. She was sweating. She didn't hear me approach. She was humming to herself, focused entirely on the grain of the wood. You missed a spot, I said. Ashley jumped, then looked down at the railing. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't make a sarcastic comment. She just ran her hand over the rough patch, nodded, and picked up the sandpaper. I'll fix it, she said. I sat down on the steps nearby. I opened a book. We sat there for an hour in silence. The only sounds were the scratching of sandpaper and the turning of pages. It wasn't a warm, fuzzy silence. We weren't best friends. We probably never would be. But the toxicity was gone. The fake smiles, the social climbing, the desperate need to be seen, it had all been burned away by the work. Tyler was in a cell awaiting trial. The developers were gone. Grandma was right. The lodge didn't need a heavy wallet to survive. It needed a heavy hand. And looking at my sister, bent over the wood, finally understanding the weight of her own labor, I realized something. I hadn't just saved the house. I had saved her. And for the first time in years, the silence didn't feel cold. It felt like peace. If you believe that family values are worth more than any inheritance check, hit that share button. And tell me in the comments, would you have offered Ashley a second chance, or would you have left her in the cold?